to speak for the bill. Just making you aware of that. So,
Get a snack.
first person signed up to speak against the bill is Jimme Cavin. Mr. Cavin. If you would, sir, just have a seat there at the end of the table and identify yourself. Identify yourself to the committee, and you're recognized to give your testimony.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Jimme Cavin, citizen. The bills before you today are not of the people for the people. The bill is of the government for the government. I find it shocking that a Republican conservative governor and a Republican conservative attorney general would put the government ahead of the people. Even though I've read it to you before, I'm going to read it again. 2519-102, the intent of the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. The very reason the act was created. It is vital in a democratic society that public business be performed in an open public manner so that the electors, that's me, that's them, shall be advised of the performance of public officials and of the decisions that are reached in public activity in making public policy. Toward this end, this chapter is adopted, making it possible for them or their representatives to learn and to fully report the activities of those officials. Each of you got to decide today, are you going to preserve and protect this act and this intent? Or are you going to tear it up? My question is, who do you serve? Who do you serve, citizens or government? I want to take just a minute to tell you just a few things that the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act in its current form has provided to help citizens with. There was a 13-year-old little girl at a middle school who was threatened with a vicious graphic rape and then torturous murder. FOIA proved that the principal in that situation failed to notify the police and the Arkansas State Police Hotline. Separate deal. A teacher was left at a school, and a teacher left the school and went to go to other employment, only to be turned down at two different places. FOIA proved that her former supervisor was releasing potential employers' personnel records that are exempt and was telling untruths about the teacher. FOIA provided video proof of a sheriff punching and choking a jail inmate just because he could. Central Arkansas Police Department chief mandated that each patrol officer make 4 traffic stops a day, and if they didn't, those officers would face punishment. Without FOIA, we would have never been able to prove it and put a stop to it. An inmate at a county jail died a horrific death of peritonitis as a result of being denied medical help and violating jail standards. Without FOIA, we would have never known about it or been able to prove that it happened. An autistic child was not only struck by an instructor at a school, but his individual education plan was not followed by federal and state guidelines. If it wasn't for FOIA, that young man would not be getting the proper care he needed, and we would have never known about the abuse. In November last year, a man died in a jail cell after being booked in on a misdemeanor. Without FOIA, we would have never known that the jail standards requiring hourly checks on him were never made, and that the deputy charged with monitoring the cameras for his cell was asleep the entire night. Through FOIA payroll records we were able to obtain and show what the school superintendents from the 10 largest school districts actually made versus what school website says. Little Rock School District, the website said $270,000. It was actually $332. Payroll records.
Wow.
Fayetteville, $237,720 was actually $287,664. Cabot, $244,007. It was actually $286,257. Bentonville, $245,000. It was actually $270,408.26. Springdale, $240,000. It was actually $265,100. Fort Smith, $215,292. It was actually $260,455.12. Conway, $220,000, when it was actually $242,833.36. Let me add in Fort Smith, did you know the state taxpayers are paying the superintendent's student loan? You know how we know that? FOIA. Last but not least, Little Rock Mayor Frank Scott. Without FOIA, we wouldn't know about the Lit Fest and Fink Rubik's contracts, his lavish city credit card spending like the one that was over $1,200 at Arthur's Steakhouse for him and his friend, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for the cost of his security detail. I'll bet last night Frank was sitting there reading this bill with a huge smile on his face while he was enjoying drinks that citizens paid for. I can't tell you right now, and I can't go into detail, but we have FBI investigations going on and other agency investigations going on that if it weren't for citizens' use of FOIA, wouldn't be happening. Now, none of what I just read you would have been able to be exposed, and none of those people would have got help if this law had been passed, because one, they would have been exempt, or two, I couldn't afford to get them. That would be holding my information at ransom. So I'm going to close with this. I'm going to ask you again. Who do you serve? Do you serve government, or do you serve the people? Thank you, and I would very much welcome any questions.
Any questions from committee members?